That's not to say that every video I put out is a banger. Like we have duds all the time. A lot of it as a content creator is just putting in the reps. I'm not saying just throw stuff against the wall. You have to have purpose and you have to make decisions, that again serve your audience and hopefully excite you. Johnny Carson would say that, we're going to have monumental shows that everyone's going to remember us for, but we're going to do it just as many, if not more, shows that do nothing. And you can't focus on those. So it's more about not being attached to the result, but being attached to the process. That really helped me because it can be really depressing when I put a ton of time, and time is money, but also a ton of money into the production of something, or I traveled somewhere to do this or look at that, and it doesn't pay off. Even our failures are helping us learn about, okay, that didn't work, let's try something new. In that way, every video is really important.
Gabe Aluisy on the Content Clubhouse podcast presented by The First Call. And while golfers may not immediately recognize your given name, Gabe, I imagine anyone who's ever gone to social media for advice on buying really just about any kind of golf-related product, they've probably come across your channel, Let's Play Thru. So with over 130,000 subs on YouTube and thousands more followers across other platforms, you've established yourself as a trusted resource in the golf space, testing and reviewing just about anything. But before we get into the backstory and how far you've come with your channel, my first question is, how many full sets of golf clubs do you think you have in your house right now?
I've got a few less as of last night because we just had a big whatnot sale where I was clearing out my studio. I would have said last night I had about 40. Now I've got about 20. That's kind of like the personal collection of just the ones that were really standouts to me. Things that like I just couldn't bear to either. We do a lot of giveaways and a lot of things for charity, and then we do these sales from time to time. But those are the ones I had to keep because there's something special about those ones.
Gotcha. And are they all, I guess the ones that you kept? I guess what's a reason real quick that's like you say that stands out? Like, is there a club or a set that comes to mind when you say that stands out?
Yeah, I mean, the first one that would come to mind, I guess, would be I have a Cobra Ajera putter, which was the first ever 3D printed putter. So things that are notable, like either notable innovations in the golf world. I even collect some older clubs. I got probably like a lot of us have a set of Ping I2s. Just stand out like historic things or things that I come across that I think would be keepers in the long run, just for my own sake, and kind of like if I had a little Gabe museum of golf history, those are the ones that I keep.
Very cool. Well, I think that's kind of a common misconception of folks who have any interest in golf content creation, especially people like yourself who review products, is that of course plenty of brands and manufacturers do send you equipment, but not all of them, I imagine, are just, hey, like you keep it for whatever purposes you want to use it for. Like, right, maybe some of the bigger ticket items, say simulators or launch monitors, that sort of thing, maybe you have to return. Like, if you had to put a number on it, what percentage would you say of the things that are sent to you do you get to keep versus have some expectation of sending it back?
I would say 90% or so are things that I just do get to keep. But generally, like I said, I don't necessarily keep them myself because I'm not a hoarder. Well, maybe I'm a little bit of one, but I try not to be. So, and I just love, I love helping other people out. So when we do sales or something, I love to price things lower so people get a chance at some of these things that, make it a little bit more affordable for them. Or we do so many, there's charity golf tournaments. I'll be donating a lot of the clubs, to help those sorts of things, or just giving them away to viewers and subscribers of the channel as well, just to help people out. So it is nice that I do get to keep them, but I couldn't possibly keep all the ones I get.
Yeah, I think the price of a storage unit or several would almost outweigh the benefit of hanging on to any of this stuff. But
and if I can't really get use of it, like something is only good if it has some sort of use and some if it can help somebody else and benefit them. I feel like that's a better use of it than sitting in storage. Yeah.
Well, I want to dive into the origins of Let's Play Thru and the early days of your channel, because of course nobody really just decides one day to make golf videos and then the very next minute, Callaway or Titleist or whoever is just sending them stuff to test, right? But a look back at your earliest videos on YouTube revealed a few things that I wasn't expecting, actually. Nearly every video that you posted early on is about golf travel and kind of destination play and experiences. And the other thing that really surprised me was they're really well made, and that's not to say I expected anything different, but usually most people's first YouTube video, a lot like this podcast will probably eventually be like, I'm going to be scared to go back and look at these early ones. But yeah, usually there's kind of a growing curve of improving the camera quality and just getting better at making the videos. But I was shocked at how well put together your first several ones. I mean, you got drone photography. You're immediately going to some pretty cool destinations. So all that is to say, how did Let's Play Thru get started? What were those early days like?
Yeah, so at the time I had a golf marketing agency helping private golf clubs build their membership. And so I started the channel, as you saw there, really as a golf travel and culture channel, just to show people some of the really interesting places that I was getting to experience in my travels helping private clubs, and just show people kind of like, I remember when I was a kid, I used to watch the show Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, and so what's interesting about a show like that is it just gives you a peek of some place that you may never get to visit in your life, or see, or something like that. So that was kind of the concept in the early stages, and as you noted as well, we did try to have as good of production quality as we possibly could. Now, if I look back at those videos, I think the performance was pretty cringy. Our concepts were not very well put together, so we had great camera work, but we didn't have a great story to tell necessarily. I think it was, with content creation, as you noted, it's always a constant, battle to improve yourself, or to make a better product for the audience. And so I do think, even though maybe the production standards were high, I think the content that we produce these days is much higher in terms of value for the viewer.
Well, you bring up that piece about improvement, and of course your channel has changed a lot I guess it's been 6 years plus since those first videos. But looking back, again, to that very first ever post, it's an official trailer for your channel, and in the 2 minutes of that video, there's not one mention of reviewing products, at least in the way that you have become more famous for doing now. And it's actually not until, I believe, your 24th post on YouTube, that you may be able to correct me if I'm wrong there, but that's your first one that you actually do your first unboxing product review video. Yeah. I'm just curious, what prompted that initial one, and were you surprised by how it performed?
I was, and it did end up changing the whole trajectory of the channel. So, as you noted, and we talked about here, it started as a golf travel channel. So, a video that I made, I was speaking at a golf management conference in the Middle East, in Dubai, and I was traveling around some of the Middle East golf clubs, and as also to kind of shoot the show. And then I spoke in the country of Oman at a place called Al-Mouj. So this is a Greg Norman property, beautiful on the Gulf of Oman, just a gorgeous kind of semi-links style, semi-deserty, just very interesting property. But it was designed by Greg Norman. And so I was able to secure some credentials for the PGA show with saying that I wanted to cover some of the things that were happening there. And I got a press release from Garmin saying Greg Norman's going to be at the Garmin booth showcasing the Garmin S62 Golf smartwatch. I didn't really know anything about the watch, wasn't really that interested in it, but I wanted to meet Greg Norman because I was like, oh, I'd get a soundbite for my show about his beautiful golf course that he created. So I went, and I ended up kind of falling in love with this golf watch, the Garmin S62. It was very groundbreaking at the time, the fact that it could do all of these amazing things. And I ended up doing a series of videos about them. And what's funny about it is the video I did on Al-Mouj, this travel video, I don't even know how many views it has now, but it's still probably well under 10,000 views. At the time, it probably came out with 1,000 or 2,000 people watched it. But the Garmin S62 videos, I think combined did, maybe 500,000 views, something like that. So still being a person that I had this vision of where I wanted to go, it took me a little while, and I had to listen to the audience and start to see the comments and start to see where we were gaining traction. And I realized that putting more product reviews into the show, that's what people were actually connecting with, and they weren't interested in what Gabe was doing with his golf travels. So we did more and more of those, and then finally, like the kind of thing that tipped it over was actually COVID, because as we all know, in 2020 things got locked down. I couldn't travel, and so you can't have a travel show if you can't actually get out and travel. But what was one of the few things I could do was have products shipped to the house and take a look at them, and I could go out to my local golf course at Carrollwood Country Club, where I'm a member, take them out on course and show people what that was like. And when I started doing these on course, I was literally just selfie, holding that camera, talking to people and trying to, have a conversation with folks. That's where like the channel really took off in a completely different trajectory. And I could see that it was not just, some amazing places that people wanted to see. It was more that they wanted some real advice from a person that looked like them. And what I mean by that is, I'm not a big hitter, right? So you see, at the time you had a lot of folks on YouTube, great golfers. They hit the ball a mile, and I love that, but that's not me. And really, the average golfer looks a lot more like me. They hit it, a lot of people say 250. They don't even hit it that far, right? And so I created the tagline, honest golf reviews from a mere mortal. And that really, people connected with that. Like, yes, I'm a mere mortal. You're a mere mortal. And I think it became like a flag we all sort of flew, the banner we flew. And so that's how things changed. And then I eventually just became 100% product reviews. And of course, that's where we're at today. And I'm just so grateful that we kind of finally landed on something that folks wanted to see. And it really did change my whole life, because in the end, the golf marketing business, it got taken over by what we were doing here on YouTube, and it sent my life in a whole nother trajectory, which has been really amazing. I love what I do. I love showing people the best of the best. I love helping people save money on equipment they're buying. I love that this gives me the flexibility to spend more time with my children and my family. It's just been an amazing journey.
At what point would you say, you mentioned COVID, and that was obviously a huge turning point for really just about anyone going through it, but you mentioned the golf business that you had beforehand. At what point would you say one sort of overtook the other? Was that kind of in the middle of that time period during COVID? Was it after the fact?
Took a little bit of time. So, in the beginning, things were, clubs started to close down. I had contracts with private clubs for their marketing, monthly contracts that they just kind of pulled the rug on. And what could I do? I'm not going to sue them and hold their feet to the fire. I realized that everyone was in this kind of weird position. But at the same time, then a little bit later in the year, golf was the one thing that people could get out and do. One of the few activities that people could just get out and have fresh air, not have to wear a mask, which was awesome to be able to do. And it really exploded. And so that also meant that clubs did not need the same marketing help that they needed when I was helping them and they were struggling. So the turning point was, I remember it was August of 2020, laying in bed with my wife. And I'm like, my business is really struggling. I had to take some loans and stuff just to pay my employees and things like that, because I wanted to do right by them. And I'm like, I'm just at the point, sweetie, that I don't think it's viable. Would you support me if I went full time on YouTube? And my wife is a saint, and she said, I'll support you whatever you do. And so that meant she had to work extra and whatnot, because I wasn't making any money on YouTube at the time. I don't think I was even monetized on the platform, or if I was making very, very little. And so it was a big risk for her, as it was for me. But it was, August 2020, that's when I decided I'm going to go full time. We started putting out minimum, I think, of 2 videos a week on YouTube, and then it just kind of grew from there to the point now where we'll put out 3 or 4 a week, long form, plus we've got the other shorts and other networks that we're working with. So yeah, it's been awesome.
An incredible and interesting story for a lot of reasons, but one, coming from my perspective as someone who speaks, especially for this podcast, with a lot of people like yourself who are content creators who at one point or another made the decision to make content creation their full-time job, most of them did it out of, hey, this has just reached a certain level of success to where it makes sense, but I think it's even better and more interesting that, no, it sounds like your decision was almost made for you in a lot of ways. Would that be fair to describe it that way?
Yeah, I definitely think that's fair. My hands were definitely tied at that point. Yeah. I mean, there was other things I probably could have pursued that might have paid off quicker, but I think it's been more fulfilling that, I decided to dive full time into the content creation because it's something I really love. I don't love it as, I think people do what I do for different reasons. A lot of times it's very ego driven. I'm a person that again, if you go back to those early videos, for the first year and a half, I still was never very comfortable on camera. So it's not something I really wanted to necessarily do, but what I did love to do is I loved, again, to help people hopefully make better decisions, or more informed decisions at least. Again, save some money, find value, and just uncover, brands or things that folks might not have had a chance to see, but maybe I did for whatever reason. And so, I also just enjoy the creative process. I always I'd rather be behind the camera, to be quite honest with you, than in front of the camera. But, I guess it's like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the better you get. But if we would have had this podcast interview when it started, I'd probably be stumbling and fumbling over my words and umming and all this sorts of things. So it's definitely didn't come natural. I didn't want to be quote unquote famous or anything like that, but I just wanted to help people, and that's where it came from. And again, people connected with that, I think.
Well, you talk about the decision basically to pursue content creation full time, but I want to go back to another decision that, again, may be similarly impressed upon you as much as you made the decision yourself. But when you made the call to, this is going to be a product focused channel, at that time, like, how confident were you in that concept? Because of course that idea had existed previously, but again, it does seem to, depending on what time, either pre or post COVID, or right around that, certainly was not the golf content creation market that exists today, right? Where essentially anything you do now would not be a new or novel idea. But I'm just curious, when you made that decision, products is the way we're going to go, like, how viable, how confident did you feel in that? Were there some very real nerves of is this going to work?
Absolutely. I think with any new things, whether it's content creation, you're starting a business, or going out and trying to get a different gig or something like that, you're always second guessing yourself. And if you're not, you're probably doing it wrong, to be quite honest. So now, at the time, there was a lot of golf club reviews. There wasn't really a market at the time for golf technology, and that's really what I focused in the beginning, because again, that Garmin S62 watch kind of started it, and then there were other various things like launch monitors coming out on the market in the next couple of years that not many people were focusing on at the time. A few, but not very many. So I knew by that time I had seen enough, and since the beginning I was always hyper involved in the comment section and trying to get to know my audience, trying to find out what they wanted to see. The best videos we've ever done, if you look at numbers or things like that, those were ideas that literally got fed to me. It wasn't even my idea. Like, someone said, hey, you should go check out Costco. They've got some interesting golf clubs. And again, that was a series of a million views on YouTube of me checking out golf clubs. One of those videos then led to another one, because this guy said, well, did you know that Callaway makes an edge set? And I reviewed that one. Again, another million or so views on that series of videos about the Callaway Edge. So the best ideas came from the audience. So I was listening at the time. So I had an idea that if it was going to work, I think this is definitely the direction. But again, I was more focused on the technology side, which there wasn't too many people doing it at that time.
And I think that the audience feedback piece is so critical, and also I think one of the most difficult things to actually make use of as a creator. I'm curious, it sounds like you really are motivated and truly, from the standpoint of helping people, and like hearing people's feedback and hearing people's opinion really is a driving force for you. But I imagine there's also got to be the voice inside your head that first motivated you to make content that said, I like my ideas, right? I mean, I think every creator kind of has to have that. So how have you, I guess, married the two of those, or reconciled the two of those, in terms of producing what my audience wants versus pursuing what maybe my first instinct as a creator is?
Yeah, that's a tough question to answer, and it is a lot of instincts, honestly. Certainly, doing YouTube or any content creation, you're getting all sorts of feedback. Probably more so on YouTube than any other platform because there's that comment section. There's direct, like, one-on-one, and even more so than like Instagram or TikTok. The comments are. There's more comments certainly, but then there's like more thoughtful comments, but also a lot of crazy comments too. It's so I always kind of live by the 80-20 rule for the most part. If I'm going to get a lot of ideas right in the comment section, but if I start to see something over and over, 80% of the people are talking about one thing. That I shift my focus towards that. But yeah, certainly I have to make decisions of things, because there's a million things to review, and there's only so many videos I can make in a week or a year or whatever. So how do I choose the best ones? And also, just I'm a golf geek, all right? So this is why what I do is the perfect job for me, because I love discovering things. And so if it gets me excited, it gets me charged up, then I know probably you'll get other folks that are like me. And I think it's people like me that like to watch the show.
That's a common thread I've heard from a lot of similar folks, Kyle Porter being among them, who I spoke to on the last episode. But basically, this idea that, like, yes, I'm trying to reach people that are similarly like-minded, and so, yeah, that if I find it interesting, there's actually a good chance that they will as well. But he also brought something up about almost the, and I don't even know, figure out the best way he described it, but basically like the self-delusion you almost have to be like, yes, thousands of people will care about what I'm going to say, especially when you're first starting. I'm curious, for you, especially coming from a place of, like, you're reviewing products, and granted, you're a self-described golf geek, you know a lot about these things, but I imagine early on there had to be some imposter syndrome of, like, do I actually know enough? Are people going to take me seriously? Like, at the end of the day, I'm just an average golfer like anybody else. How did you overcome that to be able to speak with authority in terms of, yes, you should take what I'm saying seriously?
Yeah, I think that's where when I developed that tagline, Honest Golf Reviews from a Mere Mortal, I just had to embrace it, because yes, I'm not a PGA professional. At the time, really, at that point, I was maybe about an 8 handicap, something like that. I've become a much better golfer doing the show, which is another fringe benefit of making all these videos. Last year I was down to like a 2. I think right now I'm around 3.5 or so index. But yeah, there was certainly a lot of imposter syndrome. I guess I did have a belief that, again, the show wasn't about me necessarily. The show's about the products, and if I can shine a light on these products and do the best I can as a mere mortal to show folks what these products are all about, again, people will hopefully come around and watch that content. Now, that's not to say that every video I put out is a banger. Like, we have duds all the time. I mean, again, if I looked at the history of the show, the videos that I thought were going to go viral or people were going to love, or this, for whatever reason, this video is going to do really well, kind of lagged behind, and videos I had no idea, took off. So a lot of it as a content creator is just putting in the reps. Not necessarily like, I'm not saying just throw stuff against the wall. You have to have purpose, and you have to make decisions, that, again, serve your audience and hopefully excite you. But I remember one thing, and this was a great piece of advice, because I'm sure so many people struggle with this, that I got from a friend of mine who, he said Johnny Carson would say that they'd put out however many episodes. He was 5 days a week. They're doing the Late Show or the Tonight Show, whichever one. I think he was Tonight Show. And he would say, we're going to have monumental shows that everyone's going to remember us for, but we're going to do it just as many, if not more, shows that do nothing. And you can't focus on those. So it's more about not being attached to the result, but being attached to the process. And that really helped me, because it can be really depressing when I put a ton of time, and time is money, but also a ton of money into the production of something, or I traveled somewhere to do this or look at that, and it doesn't pay off. But to really step back from the 35,000 foot viewpoint and see the big picture of like, okay, even our failures are helping us learn about, okay, that didn't work, let's try something new. In that way, every video is really important, whether the audience, it goes viral or whatever, or if only a few people watch it. So, yeah, it's still something that happens though. I mean, we put out a video a month ago that still maybe has 2,000-3,000 views when our average videos average 20,000, and our hits are 100,000 plus, and it hurts to see that because I think those videos are some of our best videos, but it's just how it is, unfortunately. I can't control the algorithm. I also can't control, and the algorithm really is just people's tastes and what they want to see in the end, honestly. As much as us content creators don't want to believe that, that's really what it is. So I just try to make each video a learning experience and just trust the process and the big picture rather than get fixated on one success or one failure. And I think that's another thing. If we go back to the comment section, I've never tried to, like, people say, like, I love your channel, this is the best golf review channel on YouTube, keep doing what you're doing. But I always try to take the praise and the criticism with a grain of salt. I think a lot of content creators get attached to the praise and hold on to that, but when you do, it crushes you that much more when you get the negative stuff. So as much as you can, it's very difficult, but as much as you can, you have to have a balance, and it's that same thing that we talked about. How do I decide which product I'm going to review when I'm getting all these different comments? You got to sort of weigh everything with a grain of salt and a balance, and again, try to have a bigger perspective about what you're doing. Hopefully that made sense. It was kind of a ramble.
No, lots of incredible wisdom in there, and especially for those even kind of considering content creation themselves. And that actually takes me to kind of where I wanted to go next. So I started the show by asking about like the clubs in your garage and the free stuff that you get sent. And for most people that would be envious of you or other golf creators, the amount of product samples I would imagine would be a big reason why. And it's funny talking to other creators in this space. I've been surprised to hear how many of them, when they first started, they said, hey, that was our only goal, is just to get enough viewers to maybe get a free polo or a set of golf clubs or whatever, but they didn't really think too much past that. And for anybody listening who may be thinking similarly, what's one thing you would tell a would-be creator with 0 followers about to post their first video who's, that they're really just hoping for some free samples? What have you learned over the course of that?
Well, I'd say start with, don't go after the biggest names in the beginning. Probably they're not going to give you the time of day. There's still big brands that don't answer my emails, believe it or not. So I think be passionate about what you do and maybe approach some of the smaller brands to begin with, that you can kind of establish a base. That's what I did. I mean, I got lucky with the Garmin thing, just happened to be going to the PGA show and they were looking for press with Greg Norman, but more so than not, those early products I did were products that were undiscovered, but that were really cool and doing something unique. So that passion will, just like it shows through to the audience, shows through to the brand. And a lot of brands are just looking for someone who really believes in what they do. Doesn't necessarily, you don't have to have a massive reach for them, but they just want people that are going to, give it a fair shot, a fair shake, and do right by the company and by the audience especially.
So on that note, I've always thought that must be a very difficult thing to balance, as you say, doing right by the company and the audience. Obviously every product that you review is not going to be phenomenal. Right. How do you balance giving honest reviews and maintaining your consumer trust as an unbiased resource, while also, like, you got to keep good relationships, right, with a lot of these brands if you hope to receive or be able to review future stuff? How do you balance the two of those?
Yeah, I think that's the best way to balance it is to always, first and foremost, you have to be audience focused first. And I always let the brands know up front, I'm going to say what I have to say. I'm not going to completely trash your product, even if I don't like it. I'd rather just not put that video out if that came to that. And that's maybe happened once or twice ever in the thousands of products I've looked at. But I tell them, there's no feedback. I'm not going to send you this video to take a look at and get your editorial critique. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. But what I try to do is, listen, every product has going to have pros and cons. So at the end of every one of my videos, if you're looking for this is what you'll get out of this product, and this is what you won't get out of it, or at least some ways this product can improve. So to be balanced in how you present it. Also, a product that maybe isn't right for me is still probably a good product for someone else. And so I always try to tell folks who I think this product is best suited for, even if it's not something I personally like. So again, in some ways I have to divorce myself from that process, think more audience focused, but you've got to be truthful and honest in whatever you do. If a product's not good, it's just not good, and I've got to say that. And so I let the brand know that up front. Positive or negative, the review is going to come out, and that's just kind of how it works. Because if I lose my audience because they know I'm not truthful, then what am I doing when I have nothing, right? So I've got to be first and foremost true to the people that watch the show.
Well, before I get you out of here, I want to have just a couple kind of shorter, more rapid fire types of questions, but just whatever comes to mind. Is there a product that you've reviewed that maybe surprised you the most? Could be good, could be bad, but something that comes to mind?
I got this exact question on Whatnot stream last night, so I have this answer for you. So I'll give you the good and the bad, all right? So the product that surprised me the most was the Lab DF3. I did not expect to like Lab putters because they're so alien-like, but when I tried that putter, absolutely loved it. So that was my biggest surprise on the show. And then, of course, if I say that now, people are like, of course, Lab, everyone loves Lab. But at the time, not everyone loved Lab or knew what Lab was, and so that was one. The one that I wanted to love, but I was maybe the most disappointed, was the Tacoma Ignis driver that was released last year. I think I scored it. We have a ranking system on Let's Play Through. Every club gets a score. I believe it was 76 points, which is one of the lower ones of that year. And it's because I love Tacoma irons and wedges, and I was waiting for this driver to be amazing. Everyone was waiting for the driver. Again, just going back to our last question, that's a great driver if you have a high swing speed, I think. 110 miles an hour plus. Could be a weapon, but for me, a mere mortal who swings at 98 to 102, it didn't work for me. So that was probably the biggest disappointment for me. But like I said, maybe not good for me, but good for you.
What about a best bang for your buck? Like something pretty cheap, it's in a surprisingly effective way really helped your golf game?
Had to be the Garmin R10. I mean, at the time, it was groundbreaking to have this little tiny, it was the size of a deck of cards, launch monitor you can get numbers from. That had to be my biggest win there in terms of something amazing.
What about something expensive, but in your opinion, worth it?
Okay, expensive but worth it. Lab, a lot of the zero torque putters in general. So whether we're talking Lab, there's been some great ones from Bettinardi last year. The Odyssey square to square is a fantastic one. Just a number of those zero torques that have come out. And the thing is, people say, like, how can a putter be $500, $600, $700? But my argument is always, I'm going to take 14 drives at best on a golf course, at most rather. I'm going to take 30 plus putts and hopefully less. And if I could take less, where's the money better spent?
And then lastly, outside of clubs, an item that you feel genuinely improved your golf game in a dramatic way.
Oh, yeah. So Hack Motion would be one of those. That little wrist sensor you put on really helped my ball striking. That would probably be the number one, like, training aid. I don't look at a lot of training aids on the channel. That would be one for sure. And I would say just having a launch monitor. For me, for a long time, it was the Bushnell Launch Pro. Now I've got the GC Quad in my studio. Knowing my numbers inside and out to me is invaluable.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much, Gabe, for taking some time. Listeners should absolutely check out his thoughts on all of these products and any more to come at Let's Play Through on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Anything else you want to tell us about exciting planes you got coming up before we get you out of here?
Yeah, let's see what's going on. Well, this year we released our own club. So the nice thing about seeing all the best golf clubs is I kind of know what works. And last year I was able to collaborate with this small little independent brand. We released a putter which sold out. We did 100 of them, and this year we had a set of irons that have come out called the LSF, Long, Straight, and Forgiving. And I think they're gonna, and we try to price them really reasonably, $5.99 for the set. So we've got that on our website, letsplaythru.com/shop. That's what I'm most excited for Let's Play Thru, is just helping people play better golf.
Very cool. Well, thanks again, Gabe. Really appreciate it, and yeah, might have to check out some of those new irons once the weather starts warming up a bit. But
yeah, man, stay warm up there. Thanks for having me on, Nathan.